In 1988, Ukraine, a vital part of the sprawling Soviet Union, was a land of quiet contradictions. On the surface, life often appeared to follow the predictable rhythms of state-controlled society. Yet beneath this veneer, a dynamic human spirit pulsed, navigating an era of both enduring tradition and burgeoning, unexpected change. Take this joyous scene in Kiev's City Hall, where a young couple celebrates their wedding. While the moment is deeply personal, it unfolds beneath the stern gaze of a bust of Vladimir Lenin, a stark reminder that even the most intimate life events were conducted under the ever-present eye of the state. Civil registries were often the sole legal avenue for marriage, with religious ceremonies suppressed or relegated to unofficial status, subtly reinforcing the pervasive ideological grip on everyday life. From the quiet solemnity of a wedding, we move to the electric energy of a rock concert in Kiev. Here, the band Abna Avia ignites the stage, a seemingly vibrant display of youth culture. Yet, even this form of expression was carefully scrutinized. Rock music, often seen as a subversive Western influence, had to navigate a labyrinth of censorship and secure formal approval to perform. Bands often adapted their sound or lyrics to fit within acceptable norms, while simultaneously pushing the boundaries. This scene captures the fascinating tightrope walked by artists and audiences alike, where the desire for genuine expression mingled with the necessity of conformity. Beyond the concert halls, the daily rhythm of life continued, often defying the rigid structure of the planned economy. The bustling Bessarabian market on Khreshchatyk Street in Kiev was a vibrant testament to this. While official state stores frequently suffered from shortages and limited selections, these collective farm markets were vital lifelines. Farmers could sell their surplus produce directly to consumers, often at higher prices but offering better quality and availability. This was a crucial gray market that, despite the official ideology, allowed for a measure of private enterprise and was indispensable for people to find the goods they needed. The importance of these informal markets extended far beyond the capital. Here in Perestroika, a town 60 kilometers south of Kiev, a similar scene unfolds. People are clustered around makeshift stalls, buying and selling, creating a vibrant hub of local commerce. These markets in both large cities and smaller towns highlighted the quiet resilience and ingenuity of the Ukrainian people in navigating the inefficiencies of the Soviet distribution system. They were places of genuine exchange, a stark contrast to the often empty shells of state-run shops, emphasizing the human need for practical solutions over ideological purity. While daily life revolved around work, family, and survival, the past always loomed large. The memory of World War II, or the Great Patriotic War as it was known, was a cornerstone of Soviet identity, a powerful tool for fostering patriotism and loyalty. Here, in a solemn procession, World War II veterans honor their fallen comrades. These men, draped in medals, were revered figures, yet the official narrative of the war was tightly controlled, often omitting uncomfortable truths about Soviet conduct or the complexities of the conflict. Their sacrifice was both genuinely mourned and politically instrumentalized, a potent blend of national pride and state propaganda. From the grand narratives of war, we descend into the very bedrock of the Soviet economy: heavy industry. In Donetsk, the heart of Ukraine's industrial Donbas region, this meeting of the Mine Board of Directors encapsulates the bureaucratic core of the system. Once again, the omnipresent bust of Lenin reminds us of the centralized control over all aspects of production. These boards were responsible for implementing the ambitious, often unrealistic production quotas set by Moscow. The fate of countless workers, And indeed, the Soviet Union's economic might rested on the decisions made in rooms like this. These are the men whose lives were shaped by those decisions, the miners of Donetsk. They were the unsung heroes of Soviet propaganda, glorified as the vanguard of the working class, yet their reality was far grittier. Their work was profoundly dangerous, often carried out in harsh conditions with outdated equipment. While their labor fueled the Soviet industrial machine, they faced constant pressure to exceed quotas, and their grievances, though growing louder in the late 1980s, were often suppressed. This image captures the raw determination etched on their faces, the human cost behind the 5-year plans. The toll of this arduous labor was immense and often visible. This miner, undergoing testing for bronchitis and lung contamination, represents the harsh health realities faced by industrial workers across the Soviet Union. While the Soviet healthcare system was theoretically universal, it often struggled with quality, modern equipment, and the specialized care needed for occupational diseases. This individual's struggle with his health mirrors the broader systemic issues of a country that prioritized industrial output over the well-being of its workforce, a silent testament to the sacrifices made for the sake of the state. As the Soviet system began to show cracks, other aspects of Ukrainian life, long suppressed, began to tentatively re-emerge. For decades, religion had been actively persecuted, churches repurposed, and faith driven underground. But in 1988, a significant shift was underway, coinciding with the millennium of the Christianization of Rus. Here, within the magnificent St. Vladimir's Cathedral in Kiev, a baby is presented for baptism. This seemingly quiet act of faith was in fact a powerful symbol of defiance against 70 years of state atheism, representing a profound and deeply personal resurgence of spirituality and cultural identity. The core of Soviet strength still lay in its formidable industrial base. The Donetsk mechanical plant, where this worker is diligently engaged, continued to churn out essential components for the nation's machinery. The individual's focused gaze reflects the demands of Soviet production targets, a relentless drive for quantity over innovation. Despite the propaganda, many Soviet enterprises struggled with inefficiency, outdated technology, and a lack of market-driven incentives. This scene captures the dedicated labor that continued to define the lives of millions, even as the system it supported began to creak under its own weight. Beyond the factories and the markets, the Soviet state also provided carefully curated entertainment. The vibrant circus in Donetsk was a prime example, a highly popular spectacle that served as a controlled outlet for leisure and cultural expression. Unlike more spontaneous forms of entertainment, the circus was a celebrated institution, embodying the discipline and artistic achievements that the Soviet Union wished to project. It offered a mesmerizing escape from the daily grind, a world of dazzling lights and impressive feats, providing a shared experience for thousands while remaining firmly within state-sanctioned boundaries. Away from the bright lights of the circus, life on the collective farms continued its often grueling pace. Here, in the kitchen of a collective farm in Donetsk, women prepare food, likely for the farm workers themselves. Collective farms, or kolkhozy, were the backbone of Soviet agriculture, but they were notoriously inefficient, plagued by lack of individual incentive and poor management. The communal kitchens and shared meals reflected the regimented, often Spartan reality of life for millions who labored on these vast agricultural enterprises, constantly striving to meet production quotas for the state. This scene from a miners' collective farm provides a fascinating glimpse into the ad hoc solutions required to feed a nation struggling with food shortages. These auxiliary farms, often attached to industrial enterprises, were set up to provide meat and provisions directly to the workers and their families, bypassing the often unreliable state supply chains. It highlights the stark reality of the Soviet system. Despite grand ideological pronouncements of plenty, individual industries and communities often had to create their own localized food security systems to ensure their survival, revealing the significant cracks in centralized planning. Shifting our focus south to the port city of Odessa, we encounter a different energy. As a major Black Sea port, Odessa had a more cosmopolitan feel and greater exposure to international influences. This young woman, with her distinct style, perhaps reflects the subtle currents of global trends beginning to trickle into Soviet society. Her expression, thoughtful and poised, captures the essence of a generation on the cusp of monumental change, navigating personal aspirations within a society that was both rigid and slowly, almost imperceptibly, opening up to the world. In the bustling salon of Odessa, everyday routines unfolded, reflecting the universal human desire for normalcy and self-care. Women gather to get their hair done, exchanging gossip and news, creating a vibrant social space. These salons were more than just places for personal grooming. They were crucial community hubs where individuals could momentarily escape the public sphere and engage in a more relaxed, informal social interaction. They represent the persistent human spirit in seeking comfort, connection, and a sense of identity within the constraints of the system. And just as in Kiev, personal celebrations continued to punctuate life in Odessa. Here, a young family raises a toast, surrounded by loved ones. Weddings, birthdays, and anniversaries were significant social rituals, offering moments of unbridled joy and community bonding that transcended the political climate. These gatherings, often multi-day affairs filled with food, drink, and heartfelt wishes, were a testament to the enduring human need for celebration and connection, providing a vibrant contrast to the more somber or utilitarian aspects of Soviet daily life. The religious revival that was tentatively emerging in Kiev was even more pronounced in Odessa, a city with a rich multi-ethnic and multi-confessional history. During Easter, a deeply significant Orthodox holiday, priests are seen here blessing food, a cherished tradition that had been suppressed for decades. This public display of faith was a powerful and visible manifestation of Glasnost, or openness, the policy introduced by Mikhail Gorbachev. It marked a radical departure from the state's long-standing persecution of religion, signaling a newfound, albeit fragile, tolerance for spiritual expression and a significant step towards reclaiming cultural heritage. The thawing of religious restrictions also allowed for the revival of religious institutions. Within the serene walls of the Alexandria Monastery in Odessa, students receive instruction. For 70 years, theological education had been severely curtailed, with many monasteries repurposed or destroyed. The presence of this functioning seminary signifies the profound extent of the religious revival under late Soviet rule. It was a place where ancient traditions were preserved and a new generation of clergy was being trained, quietly rebuilding a vital spiritual foundation for Ukrainian society. Yet, even as whispers of change grew louder, the visual symbols of the old order remained omnipresent. In Odessa, a massive mural of Vladimir Lenin looms over diligent workers engaged in their daily tasks. This striking juxtaposition encapsulates the duality of 1988 Ukraine, the tireless, manual labor that formed the backbone of the Soviet economy continued, overseen by the unyielding ideological gaze of the founder of the Soviet state. The workers continued to strive, often facing the pressures of meeting production quotas, while the system itself was beginning to show profound signs of strain and impending transformation. Amidst the work and ideological reminders, moments of leisure and quiet enjoyment were cherished. On an Odessa beach, people relax and engage in a game of chess. Chess was not just a pastime in the Soviet Union, it was a national obsession, promoted as a symbol of Soviet intellectual prowess. The scene, however, is a simple, human one, showing how individuals carved out spaces for relaxation, intellectual engagement, and simple pleasure, highlighting the blend of everyday life that coexisted with the more regimented aspects of Soviet society. Odessa's identity was inextricably linked to its port, a vital gateway to the Black Sea and beyond. The panoramic view reveals a bustling hub of cranes and ships, symbolizing its crucial role in trade and naval power. The port was a strategic asset, constantly under state control, yet it also served as a conduit for outside influences, making Odessa a more outward-looking city than many others. The presence of individuals fishing on the pier, a subtle act of personal enterprise, contrasts with the immense scale of the industrial port, reflecting the various ways people interacted with this essential economic artery. As 1988 unfolded, the winds of change brought by Mikhail Gorbachev's policies of Glasnost, or openness, became increasingly visible. Here in Odessa, public posters promoting Glasnost and an exhibition exposing Stalin's crimes represent a truly revolutionary shift. For decades, the atrocities committed under Stalin had been a tightly guarded secret, a taboo subject of official silence. Publicly acknowledging and condemning these historical horrors was a radical departure from the past, indicating a new era of critical self-reflection and a profound reckoning with the darker chapters of Soviet history. This was a direct challenge to the carefully constructed narrative of the past. Further reinforcing the profound shift in public discourse, these additional posters in Odessa underscore the depth of Glasnost. One, a traditional military propaganda poster, sits alongside a more critical piece. The poster on the right, with a bust of Lenin atop a stack of negative traits like bureaucracy and formalism, boldly declares, "The worst internal enemy we have is the bureaucrat." This was an astonishingly direct self-critique, sanctioned by the state itself, targeting the inefficiencies and corruption that plagued the Soviet system. These posters were not just public art, they were powerful symbols of an empire grappling with its own failures and attempting to reform from within, paving the way for unforeseen consequences. Away from the bustling ports and industrial centers, Ukraine also offered havens of relaxation. Yalta, a picturesque resort town on the Black Sea coast, was a popular destination for Soviet citizens seeking respite. Here, a sunbather relaxes, embodying the pursuit of leisure within a state-controlled tourism system. These resorts provided a much-needed escape from the daily grind, offering beautiful scenery and a chance to unwind, starkly contrasting with the demanding industrial and agricultural landscapes seen elsewhere in Ukraine. And finally, in Yalta, we witness a joyous scene of sailors enjoying a lively dance. Sailors, often from the Black Sea Fleet based nearby in Sevastopol, were a common sight in these coastal towns. This vibrant moment, filled with laughter and movement, encapsulates the resilience and spirit of the Ukrainian people in 1988. It's a snapshot of life's enduring celebrations, personal freedoms, and cultural expressions that persisted even as the grand Soviet experiment was quietly, but inexorably, moving towards its dramatic conclusion. These rare photographs reveal a Ukraine that was far from monolithic, a land of vibrant contradictions where the human spirit continued to thrive on the precipice of monumental historical change.